In just 48 hours, the MAAC tournament tips off in Atlantic City. We have 5 Q30 beat reporters to break down both the men's and the women's team before the playoffs. Inside the MAAC starts right now. Welcome to the second edition of Inside the MAAC. I'm Ross Meglin. We got some men's basketball beat reporters and some women's basketball beat reporters, Jack Main, Eric Kerr, and AJ Firnrohr. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great. Glad we had the new guy on, huh?
Yeah. John got more handsome.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
All right, well, Saturday was the regular season finale for the Quinnipiac women's basketball team, and Quinnipiac looked to secure the second seed in the MAAC tournament as they took on Ryder. Eric Kerr, take it away.
Thanks, Ross. I gladly will. And again, these were the two teams that faced off against each other in the MAAC tournament last year. Can Quinnipiac redeem themselves in this last home game before the tournament? Let's find out. Of course, it's going to start with Mackenzie DeWeese trying to redeem himself. She only had 2 points, guys, last time out in AC. But, hey, doing a little more right there with a nice little mid-range jumper. And then, of course, DeWeese, who else? Grabbing the rebound. 5 points her in the first quarter.
If DeWeese can figure out that shot to get it as smooth as butter and get it more consistent, she's the best player in the country.
She's definitely really deadly from the mid-range for sure. But Ryder trying to come back into it. They were down by as many as 17 in the first half, but that floater cut it to under 10. Amanda Mobley getting that one, not to be confused with Olivia Mobley in the hockey team. Kerr Haywood and one.
That's tough.
Guys, is that Haywood or Hakeem the Dream?
She been banged up all season too. For her to take the contact like that and one, yeah, I'd be fired up.
Yeah, I would be too, and her teammates fired up too. Louis Jada Bonner with the chest bump right there. Heading into the fourth quarter, it got so ugly that the Ryder others were getting exposed by the Quinnipiac others. Haley Smith from left, right to left, the lay.
What a term.
Raven Douglas off the backboard.
One time Q30 appearance.
How about Kat Almeida? How about that? She hasn't scored since February 12th, guys.
Oh my God.
And then of course, hey, we know she's got moves on the bench, but Tierra White's got
dancing
some moves
queen
on the court as well. Quinnipiac dominates. Final score 71-49. As we know, they'll play on Wednesday for the first game of the MAAC tournament.
That's right. So in that last game, Quinnipiac beat Ryder, who took down the Bobcats in the first round of the MAAC tournament last year. Kylecia Smith looks at the emotions of the final game of the regular season, and she looks ahead to Atlantic City.
Well, guys, that's a wrap. The Bobcats picked up their final regular season win here at the Pupils United Center. Now, what's ironic about this matchup is this team ended the Bobcats season just last year at the MAAC tournament, the Ryder Bronx. You can call it a redemption game, an revenge game, whatever you want to call it. The Bobcats are geared up and ready for the MAAC tournament next week. We're just a few days away from the MAAC tournament kickoff, where almost 365 days ago, the Bobcats were sent home early in an unexpected first-round loss. Now, almost 365 days later, and after a regular season finale win against that same team, rest assured, the Bobcats are walking into this tournament with a new mindset.
It is a little fitting that we had a first and last game against them, but I also think there's this fresh new beginning going into the MAAC tournament this year, and no dwelling on last year. Last year's the past, and so we're just going to keep looking forward.
And moving forward is what they have done. After having a successful season, the Bobcats sustained the number 2 seed, surpassing the first round and straight to the quarterfinals on Wednesday. With being in the unknown of who they'll face and with the downtime in between then, Coach Fabry wants to make sure the Bobcats utilize this downtime to sit back and reflect.
Take a night to reflect on a really good regular season. 19 wins, what we're able to accomplish, and know that our work is being rewarded with a good seed going into Atlantic City just for tonight. And then tomorrow I'll be like, new mission, same goal, let's go.
The MAAC basketball tournament will tip off for the Bobcats on Wednesday as they avoid to not have a repeat of last year. For Q30 Sports, I'm Kylecia Smith. See you in AC.
So after that game, we have the official women's bracket set. Quinnipiac did lock up that second seed and a first-round bye, so Eric, break down the rest.
Yeah, Ross, so very important here. Look at the 2 and 3 seed. A lot of discussion as to why Quinnipiac took that number 2 spot. Manhattan maybe have had a tiebreaker, but according to the MAAC rules, if 2 teams split their regular season matchup, which in this case they did, then the conference will use the best record against the high-seeded remaining teams in descending order. Fairfield is the number 1 seed, but both teams lost to them twice this season, which means it came down to the 4 seed Niagara. Quinnipiac beat them twice this year. Manhattan finished 1-1 against them. It just goes to show, guys, how important that 26-point comeback was for Quinnipiac against Niagara on the road.
So after looking at that bracket, how important and how different is the 2 seed versus the 3 seed? AJ, let's start with you.
Oh, it's absolutely more important. It's not really about who Quinnipiac might play, but it's who they didn't play. It's who they avoided. 11 seed Canisius, they're the Cinderella story. Everyone's going to do that. And then they also avoided Monmouth, who they lost to twice this year. Lost by 1 by 9 and 1 by 10. And they're going to end up playing either Marist or St. Peter's, both of whom they beat pretty handily. So I think they really avoided a tough one there.
AJ, I 100% agree with you. I'm going to go over the margin of victory they had in both of those teams. They beat St. Peter's by a total plus of plus 35. Marist was plus 20 against them. You look at the points per game totals. Monmouth had about 58 points per game. Quinnipiac scored about 57 against Monmouth, excuse me. Normally, the Bobcats average around 68, and then they scored 77 points against St. Peter's this season. So you got to love those 2 matchups way better if you're Quinnipiac. This is a blessing in disguise with how they're able to get this tiebreaker.
Quinnipiac really was one of the best all-around teams, probably in all of New England, New York, New Jersey conferences. They had the best margin from offense to defense of any team in the MAAC this year. There were only 3 teams with a positive point differential on the season, and it was the top 3 seeds, Quinnipiac, Fairfield, and Manhattan in that order. Everybody else is under 1.9 in their point differential for the season. That just shows how far ahead of the pack Quinnipiac, Fairfield, and Manhattan sit compared to their competitors. And if you had to pick a bracket, you could really make a case for any 3 of those teams to move on. Of course, we know about Quinnipiac. We know about how they have to play as a cohesive unit because we know that if 1 or 2 players struggle, the whole thing can totally fall out from under them. It's going to be interesting to see how they can come out and face that adversity in the first round.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, at the end of the day, the 2 and the 3 seed doesn't really matter as far as advancing the rest of the way into this tournament. But for the first round, it definitely does matter with having to play either a Monmouth or a Marist or St. Peter's. But as you mentioned, Jack, Manhattan is a very tough opponent in its own right. Quinnipiac had the chance to beat this Manhattan team not too long ago and beat them twice in a row, but they blew a 7-point lead in the 4th quarter, and they went into overtime and lost on the road.
Sorry, go ahead.
That was final tidbit. They also, even the 2 or 3 seed, they avoid playing Fairfield on the other side of the bracket until potential championship matchup. And they lost to Fairfield both times by a combined 5-6 points.
For Quinnipiac, if they play either Fairfield or Manhattan, it's going to come down to how they're going to be able to shut down Lou Lopez-Sinicol and D.D. Davis, the 2 leading scorers in this conference. You have to imagine DeWeese would play whoever the best player of those 2 teams, whoever they play, right? But it's really going to come down to how does the rest of the team come around and surround themselves around the energy that DeWeese and Caverly and Morris we know that they're going to bring for this championship potential matchup, because these guys were here last year. DeWeese struggled. Caverly struggled last year in this very game, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can actually fight those demons off in the first round against a low seed.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that game where DeWeese and Caverly struggled. A year ago in the first round of the tournament, as the 2 seed, they lost to Ryder, as we already highlight. How did they avoid a repeat of last year?
Yeah, I think Jack kind of hit upon it a little bit. I think, the main 2 players have to step up, and they proved that out on the road against Fairfield when Mackenzie DeWeese held Lou to under 10 points, which is huge. But I think for her, if she doesn't have, the greatest scoring game, she's got to find a way to be able to counteract that like she did in that Fairfield game. Because let's remember, DeWeese didn't have a great game in that performance either. She had about 10 points, but I think it was about 4 for 19 from the field. She's got to find a similar way to do that. Remember in that Ryder game, she was 1 for 7 from the field, 2 points, in a 62-50 loss in that game. So she's got to step up, and we got to see the Michaela Morris in the second half of the season. 15 points per game and about 13 rebounds per game, 7 straight double-doubles in that stretch from February 3rd to February 24th. The start of play, she was just 7.7 points per game and 8.3 rebounds per game. So got to find a way to get past that first 10 and into the second 10 for her too.
I think they just got to control their own pace. They got to play their own game, control the pace. They're second in offense and third in defense. And we've seen too many times that they just go down super early. The opposing team puts up 21 points in the first quarter, and then they're battling back. So they start out the game controlling their own pace, jumping ahead of their opponent, not missing easy layups or anything. They'll coast all the way through and avoid another first-round upset.
And you kind of hit on that momentarily, that how important that Niagara comeback was. We saw Jackie Grisdale come off the bench, right? Grisdale struggled to wrap up the season, and Helm struggled as well. I want to know who it's going to be that comes off the bench and really is that PG2 behind Caverly and DeWeese, because we know they share a lot of the ball handling duties. Who's going to come off the bench and be that plug for Fabry when they need it the most?
All right, well, early in the week, the MAAC will announce the Player of the Year for both the men and the women. Mackenzie DeWeese is the reigning Player of the Year for the women. So who is your 2022 Women's MAAC Player of the Year, Jack? Start it off.
Well, I'll head, and I say DeWeese goes back-to-back. I mean, she's the best player on arguably the best team in the MAAC conference. The fact that they're the only team that's top three in both offense and defense, and Mackenzie DeWeese is the sole reason for that. She's second in the MAAC in steals per game, and she's also top 10 in scoring, and she's also top 10 in rebounding. So she really is the beating heart of the best team, and shouldn't the best player on the best team win the most prestigious award across any sport? So I got to give it to DeWeese.
I'm not going to say anything that you already said, Jack, but I am going to add one thing. A lot of people are talking about Lou Lopez-Senecal winning the award, and while she is the best scorer in the MAAC, Mackenzie DeWeese is the best everything in the MAAC. She can do everything, and that's the main reason why the Quinnipiac is number 2, and that's my reason why she'll get it, because the Player of the Year should be someone that can encompass all areas of the game, not just scoring.
I'm going to steal what you said. The best player on the best team is going to win. I'm actually going to go with Lou Lopez-Senecal of Fairfield. Leads the MAAC in scoring, kind of like Eric said, just under 20 points. She's first in three-point percentage, 8th in field goal percentage overall. Shoots 45% from the field. That's pretty tough. She has 2 30-point games. No one else had more than one. And they ended the season 19-1 in conference. And like we said, the best player and the best team should get it. I don't disagree with the fact that DeWeese is kind of that all-around player.
Well, what did EK say? What did EK say about what DeWeese did to Senecal in their matchup?
Well, neither of them had a good matchup.
Does that give her the edge in any capacity?
Well, Lopez-Senecal also dropped 26 on the Bobcats the first time they played. DeWeese had about 14-ish.
But once DeWeese figured it out, she didn't do anything the second time.
Well, DeWeese also didn't do anything the second time.
DeWeese is a by-the-book, let me watch the film and play how I see it kind of player. She's not out there taking the assignment. You think Trish is like, hey, go get a steal on this play. No, she sees the opportunity and she takes it. It takes a matchup against a great player like Lopez-Senecal for DeWeese to be able to go out and shut her down the rest of the way.
Well, there's a reason DeWeese won it last year. Just 2 different playing styles. See one.
It is.
Well, for whatever my opinion's worth, I think Michaela Morris had a great second half.
Oh my God.
All right, we got to move on. So coming up on Inside the MAAC, we switch to the men's bracket as they prepare for a Cinderella story run in Atlantic City. We'll be right back.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive.
Why? My. Oh.
Welcome back. Inside the MAAC rolls on. Here's the tweet of the night, a quote tweet from Andrew Robinson from October.
He's back again, isn't he?
The preseason coaches poll had Quinnipiac finishing 9th. Robinson said he would bet $1 million they don't finish 9th, which he was right, but in the wrong direction as they finished in 11th.
Well, he's got $1 million at least.
I mean, last time it was his brother and Ace Robinson, so this time around, and with Andrew now picking.
I guess I got the wrong Robinson.
Do you
brother.
even
My
want that
apologies.
money? Do you want that money? Let's say you bet on with your parents. You're gonna get a grade in the class, and then you don't get that grade, but you get lower. Like, are you happy with that?
Just study.
Are you happy with that?
All right, we gotta go. On Saturday, Quinnipiac had their second shot at trying to take down Iona. The Bobcats fought with the Gales very well in their first matchup in January. As we can see, they did not compete with them that well the second time. It was the same result, another loss for the Bobcats. Quinnipiac was down 36-30 at half, so they showed they can compete with the Gales, just not for 40 minutes. Iona had the hot hand, shooting 46% from the field, and Quinnipiac was well below their average, shooting just 33.9%. Blanc and Jones led the way for the Bobcats with 13 points each. So guys, against Iona, it's a tough matchup.
It is. It is a tough matchup, and I don't think that the four of us, we're going to sit here at this point in the season and say Desi Jones is the best player on this team. I, in fact, said we should bench Desi Jones for Bernie Blunt, and then Bernie got hurt, and Jones played his butt off.
Now
for the
Desi
second
Jones
half
is
of
the only
season.
point guard still left.
He's the only point guard left, but you know what? He's playing like a true point guard one, the way that we kind of thought he was going to come in. I mean, look at that. Three-hand, in-your-face Desi Jones. He can even drive inside. I know that was a fairly easy look for him, but here we go. Tough contest against a guy who's like 5 foot forever, 10 foot forever. Jones is able to get it to go down. So Desi Jones, credit to that man because he's playing really well.
Well, we got to welcome Jon Surratt to the desk.
Basketball
beat reporter.
Why do we have to take shots off air about being who's more handsome? I'll talk to you later.
You know what? I like the shirt tie combo is pretty good.
All right, let's take a look at the men's side bracket now. Quinnipiac facing off against Marist in that first matchup Tuesday night.
I bet Quinnipiac wishes there was a 12 seed in the MAAC right now.
They would have finished there.
Game?
Is there an 11-12 game?
Yeah, that Marist matchup is not the best one, but I think, they split the season series head-to-head, 1-1. And, I mean, Marist has a positive point differential, but if Quinnipiac were able to win that game, which they definitely can do, score 94 points in their last win against Marist, Siena has the worst point differential in the entire conference. And even though they finished third, it was kind of, even when they played against the Saints throughout the season, you saw bits and pieces there where they really felt like Quinnipiac could beat this team. They just never fell through. They lost both those games. So if Quinnipiac gets past the Red Foxes, I really could see them going against that run, but it's really tough to see if they can get past Marist.
Let's not forget, Quinnipiac did drop 94 points against this Marist team at home. So they've had some of their best offensive performances against them. But that was back in the end of January. This is a whole different Quinnipiac team right now. They're trying to find themselves in a 6-game slump. I don't really have a lot of faith with them winning this game just because solely they don't really have a true paint protector. And this is where they really miss Seth Pinckney because Quinnipiac comes in last in the MAAC in blocks per game. And we don't really see Kevin Marfo, JJ Riggins, AJ Firnrohr having that same interior presence. So if you don't have that protecting the paint, it's very tough to win these kind of games.
One thing Quinnipiac does really well is they do put the ball in the basket at an efficient clip. They were one of the best efficient shooting teams in the MAAC about halfway through the season. That dipped. Obviously, you get to face your opponents more than once, and things can change a lot. But Quinnipiac still puts the ball in the basket, 4th best in the MAAC. And if they have anything that they can ride the coattails on heading into MAAC tourney time, it's the fact that they can put the ball in the basket. But Eric Kerr hit it right on the head. They're missing a true paint protector, and they're also missing a slasher, and that comes directly from the Tyrese Williams injury. It'll be interesting to see how they can get that rotation set where, get that perimeter defense to really be stronger, because if you can't protect in the paint and Marfo's struggling to end the season, you really have to put a strong emphasis on defending everybody outside, because when you try to face a George Pappas, you're going to get cleaned up from beyond the arc.
Real quick, I think defense is a lot about effort, but I also think there's talent that needs to be there too. And Taimu Shenry is the best perimeter defender on this Quinnipiac team. That's no secret. Outside of that, I don't really know who else is there. So that's just my take on it.
Yeah, I just don't see any true defender on this team, with the exception to Taimu Shinnery coming in. And it really comes down to they're the worst team defensively in the conference. You've seen it, and when they're not shooting, like Jack said, like they were at the beginning of the year, you're just not going to win games if you can't score and you can't defend the teams
they
well.
They allow as many points as they score, John.
Yeah, it's not great. And when you're talking about like George Pappas and Jose Perez, top scorers like that, they kind of limit those guys throughout games throughout the season, but then they'll have like secondary guys score off the bench or just score throughout the game in general for those other teams. So, even if you take away one of their best players, they'll try to, figure it out against the other guys.
A guy that needs to step up for Quinnipiac. If I were to put some on somebody, it'd have to be JJ Riggins. The guy has been a liability all year underneath the basket. His unathletic ability has really just shown at points throughout the season. And there really needs to be a very strong number 2, not just a guy who can hit the open layup from the left side, in select opportunities. They need JJ to be in a real strong enforcer. He's the strongest guy on this team. All you need to do is take a glance at him and he passes that eye test. He's trying so hard to be a post-up Dirk type of player where he can hit that fade. He's not that guy. Be somebody who can just stand up and be strong down low, because that's what he's going to be best at.
I'm going with the star of this team. Kevin Marfo needs to find a way to step up. Since February 20th, he's only had 5 points per game, shot 39% from the field, and has over 3 turnovers a game. That's not going to get it done.
Good.
Especially when Marfo is the guy that's supposed to be handling the ball and kind of being your main facilitator and passer at that big man spot. So if you're missing a lot of layups and you're frequently turning the ball over, it's not helping out this Baker Dunleavy offense in this team.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you, Eric, and Kevin Marfo. I mean, coming back from Texas A&M, so many high expectations, and he hit those, 2-time player of the week in the conference this year. But just, overall, after a 20-point game against Manhattan, which they still did lose, they've lost 6 in a row. And wouldn't you know it, 5, as you mentioned, 5, 2, 6, 8, and 4-point performances, averaging 3.4, and only shooting 29%. 29% from the field for your center. That's just not going to do it.
No, especially when you're right underneath the basket every time. And he tries to run pick and rolls, not very efficiently at times, but yeah.
I don't think they run enough pick and roll. I think maybe that will help out Marfo rather than getting him in the low post, because he's not that strong of a low post finisher. He'd be better off a quick pick and roll.
You had a really great video, though. I believe it was after the Senior Day game, where you just highlighted Marfo making ill-advised passes off the pick and roll, however. And so if they need to run more pick and roll?
Too, as well.
I think he tries to be too much of a facilitator. He's 3rd in the conference in assists per game, but we talked about his turnover. If you're going to give the ball over as many times as you get assists, what's the real point in being a playmaker? You're just turning the ball over.
Telegraphing passes is the man's worst enemy in basketball, so he's got to make ways to have a fake pass in there to throw the defense off guard.
All right, so I think Rigoni is probably the biggest name that has to step up. He starts the games off hot. He'll go 3 of 3 from beyond the arc, and then we'll look at the stat line after the game. 3 of 11, 3 of 10. Mm-hmm. He just has such cold second halves, and that's what really the team struggles with, because they can't put together a full 40 minutes. And it starts with him, because it does start at the top with the leadership, and he obviously has been here for 5 years. Yeah. He's suffering with a full game. He can start off hot, but he just can't play the full game.
Yeah, and that's a really good, it's a really good person to highlight, because he has the most experience as a Bobcat. Marfo's been in college for 6 some odd years, it feels like, and he's struggling. But if Rigoni can get things going from deep, and he can be that spark plug, from outside, let Belonk do his thing, let Desi Jones do his thing. That's a great take.
All right, so Quinnipiac, the 11 seed in the MAAC tournament. Can this team go on a run?
You want to start?
No. Not at all.
Are they one and done?
Yes, they're one and done, because we talked about it already. We've hit a lot of things. Defense, not there. Offense has been inconsistent. They're on a 6-game losing streak. I just don't see it. And there's an interesting stat, in fact, too, is that Quinnipiac has never made it to a MAAC championship before, much less win one. So being an 11 seed now, I just don't see it this year. I really don't.
Yeah, I think due to the injuries too to Savion and Tyrese, those are 2 guys that have been huge for the team going into the season for Savion and throughout the season for Tyrese up until this point. And it's just so tough. They're such on a cold spell that, and it just seems like we talk about it all the time, like the morale on the bench, like there just seems like no energy. And I know Marfo said like they're 0-0, but I just don't see how you can bounce back from what you've gone through like in a span of a few days. I don't see how it's going to turn out for them.
Every single coach will tell you in a press conference after a game, any team in the MAAC can beat any other team on any given night. And if you watch Iona for one game, you know that's just complete bull swanking, because Iona is far and away the best coached and the most efficient team in this conference. They lost their top 2 players this past season to transfers and to the graduation, and they are still only 3 losses in this conference. Iona they're doing something different, and I don't know, you don't want to speculate what Rick Pitino has done to turn this program around, but he really is making this program the best coached basketball team in this conference.
Well, they've always been this dominant. They've been in the MAAC Championship game for the past 8 years, won 6 of them, and it's just a testament to that. They see this dominant run, and when you get a guy like Tyson Jolly from SMU, that says something. If a guy wants to come play for Rick Pitino and come play for this program that's just dominated this conference, I get it. Anyone can beat anyone in the MAAC, but I just don't see it. Iona was the 9 seed last year, and they still ended up winning it all.
And these guys beat Alabama, who right now is number 25 in the nation. So they have shown they can beat those kind of teams. Yeah, they were 10 at the time. So they've shown that they can beat those kind of teams. Nobody else in the MAAC really has shown that they can win that kind of game. So something to think about too.
Is there a chance that Quinnipiac can play Western New England for any of these games?
They wish.
An 11-12 game.
So we predicted our women's player of the year. Now for the men. Manny Camper of Siena won a year ago and finds himself now in the G League. So who is the men's MAAC player of the year?
Okay, we'll go. I wanted to go with Marcus Hammond, a guy who's had a really good career at Niagara. Didn't have the great season last year, only shot 33% from the field last year and only scored 12 points per game. But this year brought those points up to 18 points, shot 43%, and he's just been overall helped this Niagara. At one point, Niagara was 3-7 in the MAAC, near the bottom. Then they finished 9-11, 5th in the conference, and he ended up 2nd in the conference overall point scoring wise. And he also is the whole team. When you look at the scoring leaders, he averages 8 more points than 2nd on the team. And even against St. Peter's, when they only scored 36 points, he still scored 14 of those points. I think Marcus Hammond has just carried Niagara to where they are in the conference.
Marcus Hammond is a great pick, but I feel like it's very, very hard to not go with anyone that's not on the top 3 teams in the MAAC. So for me, I'm going with Nelly Jr. Joseph. This guy does a little bit of everything. Does on the offensive end, does on the defensive end. He is a lot bigger and more athletic than a lot of these guys in this conference. That's why he's able to get so many of these easy layups like that in the B roll. 3rd in the MAAC in rebounds per game, 2nd in the MAAC in blocks per game, 5th in field goal percentage. He is a major part of the reason of why Iona is so successful offensively and defensively, but just the things he's able to do on the court on both ends really, really well.
So what you just said is really going to overshadow my player, because I'm going to go with George Pappas solely for the reason that he was the best player in this conference for the first half of the season. He kind of died off a little bit, but he still maintained top 10 positioning in all the offensive categories that matter. He's an all offense, very little defense kind of guy, but when you need a knockdown 3 in the MAAC conference, you're not calling anybody up other than George Pappas in an era where the 3-pointer is so important to any basketball team at any level. George Pappas is far and away the best player at doing that in this conference, as well as being a top 5 scorer in the conference. Just shoots lights out, and the guy has really taken a big step up in his game from last year being really middle of the pack in all those statistics. And now he's the star of one of the best teams in the conferences. He really emerged. He really took that next step. Give it to George Pappas.
George Pappas has come a long way. Remember that game when he stole the ball from the Kansas Jayhawks?
And then he dunked. That made so many headlines. Yes.
Yes. So he has come a long way from the Savage days. He still is a savage in the court, but just not like that.
Do you know what? Do you know what he said after he hit that dunk?
What did he say?
I don't think you can say it on this television station.
All right, well, Jack, it's time for Jacked and a Fool.
Oh,
Take it away.
Here we go.
Jacked and a Fool.
Hey, listen, here's what I'm going to say. Hey. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe in today's edition of Jacked in the Fool. Here we go. Taimu Shinnery, wide open, 2 hands.
See you later.
Now listen, this is number 5 because they actually do hit the 3-pointer on this. So they do end up scoring, but Taimu Shinnery.
That tied the game too with that Desi Jones.
I mean, look at how high that went. That's one. Hey, center fielder Kevin Marfo, put him out there. Delaney, hang time? I don't know, Jacob. Probably
Failure leads to success.
play number 4. Nobody's safe out here. Even Helms swag.
I saw this live.
Oh, the anticipation.
Everyone's got, this is such a good feed.
Here we go.
Cat, LaBarge, Douglas, Haley Smith.
Just one more.
Put it in the bucket! No! What are you doing?
Wow.
She gets second chance points. Taking a look.
Slow-mo.
Clean look. She tried to play that. You guys ever played taps as a kid?
The rest of the
She's okay. She's still got the
swag.
swag. She's the drippiest player in the MAAC. No one can tell me otherwise. Number 3. This is kind of a shot at Baker. I'm sorry, Baker. B-Mark. I'm going to say it. We're all B-Mark fans, right? Here we go. Senior night. He gets the start. What does he do? Oh.
Hey, that's us right down there.
Look at him. And then he just walks off. He knows he's done. He doesn't even play 10 seconds. Take your seat, B-Mark.
Let him bring the ball.
Let him. He told
this guy
us.
dropped 30 points a game in my intramural league.
Play number 2. Kevin Marfo. This is Super Bowl Sunday. Watch out.
Tackle at the 40-yard line.
Doesn't even help the guy up. Look at him. And then this is actually a different play. The number 1 employer at Quinnipiac Athletics, Rob Rossman, staying with that Big J journalism. Look at him get the flicks.
He grabbed the camera. That was his first instinct.
All right, number 1. We actually have to listen to this one, so everyone shut up for a sec.
We learned really fast that with them bringing out them. Oh, I'm so sorry. Was this a first? Was this a first? Don't put that in your bloopers. Nobody. I'm so sorry.
This is the worst bloopers. Look at this.
Number 1 Jacked in the Fool.
She just knocks over the mic. Who? Okay, Quinnipiac, first of all, get like a real media stand so everyone can just sit up there. But I'm sorry, Deweese, this is going to live in infamy.
I think everyone's just got to get a mic stand like we have.
Just get a mic, or just get a table where we can get like 3 players at once. You know, how much better would that be?
All right, so final thoughts of the show. What are we most looking forward to for Atlantic City?
I'm really excited to be back there and be in person, but also be back in that press row in the front row. We were up in the upper echelon
the nosebleeds.
level, and the nosebleeds last year.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be back, and also excited to go with you guys too. So I'm really excited.
Right,
for
the second,
and also
the
mini
second
golf.
thing you're excited.
I'm
for.
excited about mini golf as well.
Oh, that's.
We got another blog.
We
coming
do. We got
from
another
Kerr.
blog coming as well.
Well, I just wanted to shout out the Shamrock Shakes because it is March and it's madness, and there's Shamrock Shakes at McDonald's. We talked off air. I don't think there's 60 pounds of sugar in a Shamrock Shake.
No, that is sarcasm, actually.
100% guaranteed.
But also, like what Eric said, super hyped to go with you guys, and 48 hours away.
Yeah, countdown is on.
I heard our hotel has a pool.
That is confirmed.
I am so elated to go swimming in a hotel pool. It has been so long. Listen, it's not even that I want to go. It's the fact that I have the ability to swim post-pandemic.
It's pretty sick.
Well, there's a bunch of beaches that
It's a pretty weird take, I'll be honest
All
with you.
right, if that's the case, I will go with a basketball take. I am excited to see Rick Pitino roll the MAAC. And I'm also excited to see Monmouth, because this is Monmouth's last MAAC tournament, and they're heading into a higher conference, the CAA, mostly because of a football program. But listen, Monmouth wants to go out with a bang. They have my pick for MAAC Player of the Year, so it would be cool to see. It's going to be cool to see Monmouth and Iona go head to head, and what would be my pick for the championship?
When you're at the MAAC tournament, you can hear a lot of things. You can hear a lot of Rick Pitino, and you can hear a lot of Dylan all the time. So.
One sec, and I hate to hijack the show here. 1 sec.
That's fine.
We could be witnessing Kevin Marfo and Jacob Rigoni's last games as a Bobcat, which is huge.
What we thought a year ago.
Yeah,
it is. But now this time it's for real, and they
real.
can't take anything back. So do we think they go out with a bang?
No.
We asked that
We
question.
talked about it. We all said no.
Well, personally, what if Marfo goes out and has a triple-double?
Has he
Okay.
ever
You want
done
to put some bets down on that?
Can you bet triple doubles for college basketball?
Probably some prop bets out there.
I'm being told that yes, we can.
Well, there
No,
we
we're
go.
not sponsored. We're not sponsored. We're not sponsored.
Oh, God.
We'll find out Tuesday night.
MAAC
That's
and
right.
Maine. MAAC and Maine sponsors inside the MAAC.
Yeah, there you go.
48 hours to go. That will do it for episode 2 of Inside the MAAC. Tomorrow, we will hop in our cars and head down to Atlantic City where we will have full coverage of both the men's and women's tournaments all week. Follow along on Q30 Sports, as well as live broadcasts with myself and Eric Kerr over on QBSN. Follow Q30 Sports on Twitter at Q30 Sports and QBSN on Twitter and Instagram at QBSN. For Jon Surratt, Eric Kerr, Jack Main, AJ Firnrohr, I'm Ross Meglin. Thank you for watching. Good night.